So still room for more conversation. And we're going to try one now. Yeah, this hour we're going to try another conversation. And it is something that was in our news bulletin yesterday. It has to do with tenancy, rent and agreement. Now, I mean, before I stepped into the studio for this conversation, I had my colleagues, ranting, complaining, giving their thoughts on this very conversation. And so we will talk about it. We'll talk about it, you and I. So before I do, let's go back to yesterday's news item, where my colleague, a correspondent, a reporter, decided to, go out there and ask questions as to what people think about the current trend in Rivers State. So the report goes like this. Some prospective tenants in Port Harcourt are calling on the Rivers State government to regulate the activities of landlords and property agents in the state to curb their excesses. Speaking to our correspondent, there is concern over the high demand by landlords and agents who often require tenants to pay up to 2 years' rent in advance before securing accommodation. Some of the areas they mentioned include Woji, Stadium Road, Rumi Bekwe, Peter Audley, Rumumasi, Ada Judge, among others. So let's take a listen to what they actually said. Let's look for the soundbite and play the soundbite and get your thoughts.
They are asking for 2 years plus charges. Everything is getting up to 5 point something million. So you eventually see a house that they are willing to take 1 year. Then at this point, it's by law. I've been house hunting for 3-4 months. Everybody is telling me 2 years. I don't have money to pay for 2 years. They won't do this because most of these Yahoo boys, they pay for this house is 2 years. They eventually don't stay for the 2 years. It's a win-win for the landlord. It's a win-win for the agent. But you have young people like me who are genuinely trying to make a living. We would not see that money easily like that to pick.
I even learned that it's the agent that tell the landlord to collect 2 years payment so that their agent's fee is going to be double.
Who are the people responsible for regulating the exorbitant amounts we pay for rent?
All right, so the first perspective to the conversation, looking at that report, was the amount that rent costs these days. Some say it's exorbitant. Some say a one bedroom goes for as much as 1 point, and they've blamed the Yahoo boys. We call them Yahoo boys, fraudsters, basically. They've blamed the fraudsters for, such, culture, and also blamed agents. And, the first conversation is, can government regulate tenancy in Rivers State? Because in truth, we've seen a massive exodus from the rural area. And I've mentioned this a couple of times. And we've seen the population gather at the metropolis. Remember now, Port Harcourt has expanded into Obiakpo. Obiakpo is now expanding into local governments like Ikwere, Eleme, and we've seen this expansion, grow. And as the expansion is happening, we're seeing new houses built. I mean, there is a plethora of realtors, real estate companies popping up everywhere, because that's like the new bees, and that's the new oil, the new gold in Rivers State. And as these things are happening, modern technology put into houses. Houses are now made for comfort, not basically for the basics, which is to shelter a being. Houses have gone beyond just being shelters now. It's now an economic statement, is now a statement of status. And so we now see landlords, try to meet up with the modern demands and increase the rents. There's also the argument of the economic situation. If my only source of revenue is my house that I built many years ago, I would want to keep up with the economic times. True or false? I think true. So if that is the argument, I would also want to step up my rents as my brothers or my colleagues who have now built modern houses have done. I may not be able to, put my rent as much as they have done, but something very close. And the point is, if all the landlords are now making exorbitant rent, where will people stay? I guess that's the argument some of these people who were interviewed by my colleague have argued, and they're saying, hey, very shortly a lot of Rivers people will not be able to afford houses. So how do we get this sorted? I mean, I've always argued that if development can reach other local governments, maybe there will be not so much demand for houses in the metropolis, and the landlords would have to, make do with the available clients that they have. But there's also the argument of those rich kids and those who may be into fraud, who would pay whatever amount they are asked to pay. There's also the argument of electricity, band A, band B, band C, band D. I hear the various bands also determine how much the landlord takes, even though the landlord is not the one footing the bill when it comes to electricity. So this is a conversation I want to have. But in that bulletin yesterday, we had a lawyer, Livin Jamala. You know him. He usually would be our guest, but let's take a listen to what he said.
Agents have now moved outside the provisions of the law to impose higher percentage on the parties. If I ask you for an example to look for a 2-bedroom apartment for me, and after levying money or the payment amounts to 1 million, the law requires that I pay 5% of that 1 million to the agent that I engaged, and the other 5% should be paid by the landlord. But we live in a society where enforcement of our rights seems to be the last option for most of us.
All right, so the lawyer, Livin Jamala, also argued that he argued that the agents are one major factor in the increment of house rent, or should I say tenancy rates and agreements. So can we, first solution I'm looking at it, can we circumvent agents? Can we go around agents? Can we not go through agents while looking for houses? And maybe landlords can now use digital platforms and digital ways to advertise vacancies in their houses. Do you think the government should also play a part? The Ministry of Housing, for instance, should also play a part in how agreements are drawn. I mean, yes, if you get an agent, it deserves a fee. And like we've been told by the lawyer, 5% is a percentage is supposed to be paid by the landlord, while another percentage paid by the tenant, the tenant who is about to take up that building or that house. So, do you think the government, Rivers State government, do you think the House of Assembly, and I don't know, we've got two houses at the point, so we don't know which one is which. But do you think the House of Assembly should make a law saying, hey, this is what it is. This should be the cap. Rent should not go beyond XYZ amount. Do you think that will work? There's the issue of years. I think there is a law. I can't remember if it was done in Lagos State or it's a general law even done in Rivers State. But I remember one time almost all media houses were talking about it, and it was about whether it will work in Nigeria, where we're arguing as to whether we should take monthly rent or yearly rent. And then we saw a law, I think it was in Rivers State, if I remember vividly, there was the law that says that a landlord should not take more than 1 year rent. I think it was in Rivers State. Was it Rotimi's administration or Week's administration? I cannot remember now. But yeah, you cannot take more than 1 year's rent. I wonder why the landlords are going as far as taking 2 years, and it's as much as it is right now, where a 1-bedroom is going for as much as over ₦1 million. Now, there is the third part of the argument. Let's take a listen to that argument. Give me, where is it now? I think I can't seem to find. Is this it? Let's see.
The landlord has a right,
Yeah.
subject to the provisions of the law, to make conditions, and the tenant has a right, subject also to the provision of the law, to either consent or refuse consent. But if both parties will agree to those conditions, that I want to pay for 6 years, I have the money now, in order to save the number of years that I want to pay, and the landlord accepts, it is between both parties to agree or not to agree. And so whether or not a landlord has a right to impose on a client as to the number of years the client should pay, it is subject to the consent of the tenant.
All right, so you've heard that. I'm going to start taking calls right now. Let's get to the root of this. Let's share ideas. Let's talk about it. Hopefully, we'll get the attention of those in authority. Maybe we'll also get the attention of the landlords, and the landlords will contribute on the show. How do we get it? Because the truth is, the landlords will also not get clients if they get to the point where these things are too exorbitant for us to rent. Right? Everybody now will. my goodness, we'll probably go back to the village, and we'll be coming to work from the village. After all, places like MOI local government area are not really far away from the metropolis. Places like Oigbo, are not far away from the metropolis. People will begin to look at those places and rent houses in those places. So what are your thoughts? How do you, because it's supposed to be an agreement between the landlord and the tenant, like we've been told by the lawyer. So if they agree, then it becomes binding. However, sometimes it looks like these tenants, they're arguing, they don't have choices given the situation they find themselves in many scenarios. Let's go to the phone line. 0817-923-0002, 0817-923-0003, 0817-923-0007. WhatsApp number 0809 0306416. Quickly before the commercial break, I'd like to get your thoughts. I'd like to hear your thoughts on this very issue. I've also got live stream on Facebook and on YouTube. You can go there and comment, and let's get your thoughts. Clinton calling from Bori. Clinton, welcome. What is on your mind?
Hello, thank you very much.
Yeah.
The problem we are having with this high cost of accommodation in Port Harcourt is because people are so focused. So they are concentrating everything on Port Harcourt alone. There are nearby cities, nearby towns like Bori. People don't want to live there. I don't know why. Our accommodations are cheaper.
But Bori could be, Bori is far from the metropolis. Look at how bad that element stretch of the east-west road is.
The problem is to fix the road.
Okay.
If that road is fixed, Canada, it will not take you 30 minutes to get to Port Harcourt.
Okay.
So that's why we agitated that let them fix that road. Even the state government is taking this revenue from that road. Federal government is also taking from that road. Why can't they fix the road? Even the state government can fix that road. 30 minutes, Canada, you get to Port Harcourt. I know where it was good. Let them try and just shift their attention from Port Harcourt and go to nearby towns. I think these equal landlords will now see that people are not living them.
Let's not make it about a tribe now. Thank you. Not all landlords in Port Harcourt metropolis. My tongue is tied. But I'll go for a commercial. When I do return, you and I will talk some more. Please do stay tuned. We had a very long commercial. I would like to get your thoughts, but I don't have enough time, so I'm just going to read messages. Let's see. This one says, one cannot get a house in Port Harcourt without the agent being involved. While most agents has chosen to work with landlords with an evil intention to shortchange the tenant, the level at which most of these agents create animosity between the tenant and the landlord, you will hail this agent. I don't get this message really, Onyeka. I think you really need to retire because I'm lost in the conversation there. But this one says, thank you for this topic. I had this experience while looking for a house to rent. The caretaker took me to a place and said they have 24/7 light, just pay the rent. I scolded him about it and asked if the landlord is the one to pay my bills, that's light bills. He said people should go for a house within their paying capabilities, not based on what the agents tell them. The agents are the ones that influence the rents and some landlords to regulate the sector. Anonymous. Let's come here. This one says tenants cried out exorbitant increment of house rent in the state. The exorbitant increase of house rent in various states is alarming and worrisome. I think it is high time government should regulate house rent in Port Harcourt to cushion economic hardship in Port Harcourt and its environs. Government should do something positive in view of the house rent. I want to take Clinton West. This one says one cannot get a house in Port Harcourt without the agent being involved. While most agents, I think have chosen to work with landlords with an evil intention to shortchange the tenant, the level at which most of these agents create animosity between the tenant and the landlord, you will hail. These agents are not just terrible individuals, but with evil and selfish motive. Imagine living in a house where the landlord reside, but the agent are the ones dictating. Some landlords could be compassionate, but these agents have a way of corrupting their minds. Onyeka from Rumudara. All right, but I've got to go. I've got a commercial, another one. And once again, I apologize. It's that season where we get to pay a lot of bills, but do stay tuned. The major news will come up after the commercial.